Hi, this is Jeremy Schoonmaker, pre-sales technical consultant for the Channel MPS Group. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up embedded job accounting on a FutureSmart MFP. Now, FutureSmart added embedded job accounting in FutureSmart 4.7, so you'll need to be updated to something newer than that. And the driver portion that I'll show you came in UPD 6.7, so you'll want to be on 6.7 or newer. Both my device and my driver are newer than that, so you should see all the features just fine. So embedded accounting, what it is it's the ability of the device to keep track of how many pages a user has printed, color, mono, duplex, copies separate, faxes separate, okay, so keeping track of those things. And we also added, as part of that, a quota engine as well, so you can create a limit for how many pages users can print or copy. So that's what I'm going to show you, is just how to do the basic setup. I'll do a few more videos showing some more in-depth features, but this will just go over the basics of how to get it set up. So assuming you have a device that's on FutureSmart 4.7 or newer, the first thing you're going to need to do is set a password on the device. Okay, so this can't be done without a password on the device. And by the way, this is now a good time to say you also do all of this in the embedded web server. Okay, right now none of this is done on the front panel of the device. All of it's done in the web server. So you'll log into the web server, go here to security. If it's the first time that you've accessed the device, you'll probably also have to go to account policy and change the minimum password length if you want to, and enable or disable complexity. I'm using a super secret 2-digit password here, so I have disabled the complexity and put the minimum to 0. So I add the password and click apply. So that's step one. You can't get any farther with this without adding a password. Next, you're going to want to go here to access control. Now in access control, there's 2 tasks that you're going to complete. The first is that you're going to create permissions. Okay, so the access control page in general is about creating users and saying how they can log in and what they can do on the device. In general, at the minimum, what you're going to want to do is disable guest access to anything that could be a print, right? So copy, fax, print from job storage, okay, print from USB drive, this sort of stuff. Those are the things you're going to want to disable at the minimum here. I'll show you in another video some additional things that you can do, but at minimum you're going to want to disable any place that you can report or print, reports, again, copy, fax, etc. That way users will have to log in using the pins we're going to create in order to use those features, and in that way we'll be able to account for what they've done. The second thing you want to do on this page here is at the very, very bottom, you're going to want to create device user accounts. Okay, these are the actual codes that people are going to use to type in, or pins that they're going to use to type in. There's 2 ways you can do it. Of course, you can do it one at a time. If you do, you can click New, you type in a name. You can add an email address if you want to. That can be helpful if users are going to log in for scan to email, because you can have this email address automatically populate. You can add a network name if you want, if you're going to do color restrictions, or if you're doing a lot of printing from job storage, this will be helpful. If not, you can leave those blank. You'll need to enter in an access code. It needs to be at least 4 digits and no more than 6, and then choose a permission set. And right now all we have is the device user, so that's what we're going to stick with. You could create them as an admin, but usually they're going to want to be some sort of user. Okay, so that's the minimum that you need to put in. Again, you can add some more information if you want, but that's the minimum you want to put in, and you click OK. All right, so that's creating a single user. You can also import users, and I have a template here that I created. You need these columns here: name, email address, PIN, permission set, and network name. If you don't have this information, like if you don't want to add a network name, you just leave it blank for that user, okay? So then you can enter in as many as you want here, up to 2,000, by the way. 2,000 user codes is what we can keep. And then you can import this into the device here. You'd click Import, you'd choose that CSV file, and then you'd upload it to the device, and then all your user accounts will be there. All right, so once you're done with that, click Apply. Remember to click Apply so that your permissions are in place and then your user accounts are set up and ready to go. Okay, so we've entered a password on the general security page, we've set up permissions, and we've created user accounts here in access control. Next, you're going to go to the General tab, and you're going to go to the Job Statistics settings. You're going to check this box and then click Apply. If you don't have a password set in the device, this won't be there. So if you don't see this option here, first check and see if you have a device password, and then also check and make sure you're on the correct firmware version. Okay, once that's enabled, now the device is tracking user activity. So if somebody goes up to the front panel, enters their PIN code, and makes a copy or a print, this will keep track of it. Okay, so now this has been enabled. You can also go to the quota settings if you like. You do not have to turn on quota, but you enable the local quota service here at the bottom and click apply. And when you do, a new option will show up here on the left-hand side of the screen here, where you can actually go in and make some more specific changes to the local quota configuration. I'll go through that in another video as well. By default, just know everybody, all the users that you've created have, what is this, 1 million prints that are available, and any guests or others, so people that either don't have a PIN or there's a PIN entered but we don't recognize it, have none. Okay, so this will disallow them from printing or copying or using any functions on the device. Okay, so with that set up now, I've got user accounts, I've got my permission set up, I've got the device now tracking any of the codes that are coming through, and I've set up quotas, so if you don't have a code or an invalid code, you can't print. The last thing that you'll probably need to do is make some changes to the driver. Okay, so again, at the front panel, we're good to go. People will have to enter in their code to start making copies, and we'll be tracking those. But prints right now are not getting codes. Okay, so what you need to do is go into a driver, and again, you need to be using UPD 6.7 or newer, and you'll need to go in here into the device settings. All right. In the device settings of the device, you need to enable job accounting. You see how it's disabled by default? This doesn't automatically get enabled when you enable it on the device, unfortunately. So you need to manually come in here and enable it. If you are using driver configuration utility, you can enable this with driver configuration utility in mass. So we're going to enable that and click apply. Once you do that, if you go here to preferences, a new tab will show up called job accounting. And then you'll want to turn it on to user access code only. And then you have two choices here. You can either type in the user access code. So if you're on somebody's computer doing this and you want to save this as a default, you can do that. You'd click apply, and then every time they print, this code would be associated with their job, and now we can track that. The other option is you can prompt for a code when printing. This is probably the more preferred method overall, but also if you're using a print server and doing a shared queue, you of course don't want the user access code to be shared amongst other people, so you can prompt when printing. So that's what I'm going to turn on here, and then I'll just show you. Let me open Notepad and do a test print. Let's see, that was on the 586 there. Okay, so when I print here on the 586, just to make sure, I'll just go here to preferences, and you see the always prompt when printing's on here. And when I print, I'll get this little pop-up that says, please enter the access code. Okay. If I enter the correct access code for a user account, I push OK, my job will print, and it'll get tracked. If I enter a code that's incorrect, remember how I turned on quota? I would be in others, right? So I don't have any quota if I enter in a code that's not correct, like 9876, and my job will not print, again, because I don't have any quota to do so. So that's the basic setup here. Again, we're going to go back and turn on the password. We're going to create permissions on the device for the front panel access and who doesn't have to access or enter a code to access the front panel. Then we're going to create user accounts. And then we're going to turn on job statistics and or quota. And finally, we're going to enable job accounting on the driver. And that's the basic setup for embedded job accounting.